Hi, welcome back to Talking About Stuff with Maggie. Can you guess what we're doing today? It's time for more history and makeup. This hat I'm wearing is called a got, so have you got any idea what we're talking about? Well, I can't do makeup while I'm wearing it, so I'm going to take it off for now, but I promise I'll put it back on. Don't you worry, the hat is coming back. So, you've got nothing to worry about. So today, I'm going to talk to you about something called the Annals of the Chosun Dynasty. In the Chosun Dynasty, there was a rule that the king had to always be accompanied by a royal record keeper. They always had to be present and taking notes wherever the king was and whatever he did. And they had to take really detailed notes. Like, I'm talking, the consistency of his poop, the queen's menstrual cycle being early or late or whatever. He had to poop into a box, which was called the mehwatul, and mehwatul means apricot flower box, because the king's poops don't stink, right? And then this box would be delivered to the court doctor, who would take notes on the poop's weight, the consistency, the smell, and the taste, in order to track the king's health. Can you imagine that? Ugh, I don't want that job. I never ever want that job. And then the kings weren't allowed to stop anything from being written. They couldn't say, don't write that. In fact, there are parts of the records that say, and then the king told me not to write this, or the king tried in vain to have this not written. Also, in order to protect the record keepers, the king couldn't read anything once it was written. So this was to protect the record keepers and to protect the integrity of the records, so that nothing could be influenced. It's only the truth being written. And these were so these are so well protected for their integrity and trusted to be true that they've even been recognized now as UNESCO Memories of the World Heritages, because they're considered to be most likely true. These records were kept over a course of about 472 years, and there's over 1,800 volumes for the kings. And each king had a different number. There was anywhere from 6 volumes to almost 300 volumes per king, depending on his lifespan and his activities, that kind of stuff. And basically the contents of these annals was just day-to-day stuff, like what he did, who he talked to, his schedule, what he ate, where he pooped, all that. Nothing super duper exciting, but there were a few stories hidden in the annals that I find quite entertaining. And that's what I'd like to share with you guys. I want to tell you these interesting stories. And like I said, these stories come straight from the annals of the Chosun Dynasty. You can assume 100% true. Let's see. The first tale involved King Sejong, the great King Sejong's son, Munjong. Munjong was a lot like his father. He was a bookworm. He loved to study. And in fact, he was not really interested in, human activities. Nothing really got him to put his books down. And especially when he took a wife, when he was still just a crown prince, his wife, who was not super special looking, she didn't have anything about her that inspired him to put his books down. For her, that's really stressful because she has to produce an heir in order to secure her space among the royals. She was desperate for his attention, desperate to do the sideways tango, if you know what I mean. In her desperation, she goes to one of her servants and she says, "Give me an idea, what can I do?" And the servant gives her this idea and says, "Why don't you take the shoes of a more popular woman, somebody that Munjong has shown any interest in, and grind those shoes up into a tea and serve the tea to him. Make him drink the shoe tea." She didn't try nice meals together. She didn't try lovely conversation or poems or long walks on the beach. She tried shoe tea. And when that didn't work, the servant got another idea and said, "Find a snake that's just mated and wipe up the snake sperm with a towel and keep that towel with you, because snake sperm is sexy and it'll make you have sex too." And so she did that. So she kept this snake sperm towel with her. And now you might be saying, "Maggie, don't be so judgmental, this was a different time. It was 400 years ago. People had different customs and different expectations." And I will say to you, no. You're wrong. Even the people of the court at the time said, this is really weird. You are weird. You are practicing witchcraft. Take your shu tea and your sperm towel and get out. But Munjong did take on a second wife, but she didn't fare much better. She also struggled to get his attention. However, she was not the kind of girl to leave herself wanting, if you know what I mean. She took her needs into her own hands, if you know. Well, actually, she took her needs into the hands of her maid, and it's not for lack of interest. It's not like she wasn't interested in Munjong at all, and she only liked ladies or something. She definitely tried to get his attention. She tried really hard to get his attention. She visited him frequently. She even tried lying to him and saying that, you know, she was pregnant to get his attention, but nothing made him put his books down, you know, and stand and deliver. So, you know the old saying, if you don't get fed at home, you'll get dinner outside, right? Eh? So she started getting dinner outside. In fact, she's recorded as having had several relationships with several court maids, but one in particular she was getting dinner with pretty frequently, if you know what I mean. She slept with her a lot, and they had a relationship for like years before anybody noticed. And then they gave her a warning, and they were like, look, you got to stop with all the nookie, or you're going to get kicked out. And guess what? She got kicked out because she couldn't quit with the nookie. Her lesbianism was too powerful, and so she also got kicked out. It makes me wonder if Munjong was even that handsome. Like, was he worth all of this stress? However, there was another king who, he was Hyojong, and he was so satisfied with his appearance. He liked the way that he looked so much that he was said to look in the mirror very frequently and be so satisfied with what he saw that he would just start laughing from joy about how good he looks. Can you imagine looking in the mirror and being like, oh, you handsome devil, you sexy thing. Can you do that? Have you ever done that? I've never done that. I've never looked in the mirror and been like, hey girl, you can get it. I can't relate. So anyway, but there was one guy who we can definitely verify was a handsome devil, and that was Hunjong. King Hunjong was so popular with the ladies, so popular with the court maids, so popular with everybody that he didn't even need to take on an official concubine because he was just stooping everybody at the palace. He was making love left and right, making nookie with everybody, and he was boinking so much that it ended up taking a toll on his health. He ended up losing his strength and his energy and his human vitality because he was spending all of his efforts on boinking. So much so that at the tender age of 23, he died from sickness incurred from a lack of energy and health. The boy banged himself to death. So, neat. Honestly, he's my hero. I love that. I also would like to sex myself to death. That sounds wonderful. If you can't tell, I'm trying to do a more masculine look here. To be as sexy as Hunjong. Now, to be honest, guys, I can't possibly tell you every single story contained in the annals of the Joseon dynasty because there's just so many. Like I said, it's more than 400 years. It's over 2,000 volumes. If you want to hear more, if you want to hear more stories, if you want to if you want me to tell you the tales of the Joseon dynasty's finest entertaining tales, leave a comment and say that that's what you want. Go ahead and also give us a like and subscribe and ring that bell so you get a notification every time we upload a new video. What do you think? Am I sexy? Am I handsome? Am I a handsome Joseon man? Maybe. So be sure to stay tuned for more videos, more makeup, everything. And leave a comment telling us what you liked. And I guess I'm ready to go court some maidens. What do you think? Have I got a chance?